Hello friends, Jim Hale with you on the opening day of the second phase trial. 3 more defendants being tried here at the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. And I want to just say a few words about this building behind me. This building has become the very symbol of the Biden Department of Justice and its war on conservative and patriotic Americans. Many of you know this is the very building where Trump was indicted just a couple of weeks ago, and this is the place where the sentences, or the convictions and the ridiculous sentences, have been meted out against the January the 6th defendants. And that war continues with pro-lifers, as the Justice Department has, in addition to just your basic face charge, which carries with it either a 6-month misdemeanor or a 1-year felony charge for violating the FACE Act, they've come up and invented something entirely new, conspiracy against rights, which you have to go all the way back to 1948, which was a law that was instituted to charge members of the Ku Klux Klan for conspiracy against rights. And now, as far as Biden and the Justice Department is concerned, these pro-lifers are on par with the Ku Klux Klan. So that just gives you an idea of where we are at today and the hostile environment that we are in here in the nation's capital. Now, press conference is ongoing. We've just broken for lunch, and we just heard from all 3 of the defendants who made just some really beautiful remarks. And I just want to preface Jonathan Darnel's remarks. Some of you might be aware that the entire issue of rescue has broken out in another hot debate within the pro-life community. That debate's been going on for a long time. Last week, a couple of prominent pro-life leaders criticized rescue, and there has been a lot to say about that. But we want to give Jonathan his chance to respond to that. So here are the remarks from the defendants we heard just moments ago.
Just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for all of you who are praying for the little babies and for our case. And I just have to tell you what a privilege it was to be part of a rescue to try to save little babies here in this notorious city, the state, our capital of our nation, and at this terrible death camp where little babies were being killed, even violating federal law. And they still violate federal law. And with the double standard of prosecution and the DOJ and FBI, of course, they are not prosecuted. But just thank you for your support and love. And I just want you to know that I'm humbled by the privilege to suffer in any little way imprisonment for the little babies. And as Will Goodman said, being in jail kind of puts you in the thoughts of being isolated in the womb. And so we can more be in communion with our little brothers and sisters who this very day are dying or being prepared to be killed, and for the conversion and change of hearts of their moms and dads throughout this nation. Thank you. And Jean, sorry, our co-defendant.
Good afternoon. I just want to thank all of you who are working in the pro-life arena, wherever you are. Thank you. On behalf of the children, thank you. I would also request that all pro-life organizations unite. Some of you may not understand what we're doing, but I would ask you to unite. Even if you can't do the same, please support us, and thank you for all those who are supporting us. And I would ask of pro-life corporate America to demand of the Supreme Court human rights at conception. Thank you.
All right, now I'm going to try to keep myself brief here and speak as to what's kind of really on my heart as we go forward with this trial, because who knows, in a few days I might not get a chance to speak in such an arena for a long time. Now, as I said earlier, the charges leveled against myself and my co-defendants amount to a possible 11-year prison sentence for each of us. As they observe what is happening to us, there are 2 opposite lessons that pro-life Americans can learn and 2 opposite paths that they can follow. Number one, they can learn that it doesn't pay to be a hero, that crossing the property line is a stupid act, and if you want to avoid the wrath of the U.S. government, you best keep your head down and let the baby killers ply their trade in peace. Or, number two, they could learn that loving preborn kids is no more of a waste of time than loving your own family, that the U.S. government must be scared silly of citizens who they can't frighten into submission, and that going to jail is simply that, jail. It's not the end of your life or the end of your effectiveness, it's just jail, a normative part of following God in a nation that hates him. I hope and pray that pro-life Americans learn the right lesson and follow the right path so our sacrifices will not have been in vain. Why is there so much opposition to rescue? Why do so many people view us as noble but misguided eccentrics who should be pitied but definitely not imitated? I'm hardly an expert. I've only taken part in a handful of rescues. Joan has done perhaps hundreds. But personally, I don't think it's a question of strategy. I think it comes down to a flat-out denial that our lives would ever be seriously disrupted. Whatever else ending abortion might entail, we refuse to believe that it might ever require us to suffer in the way the preborn child suffers. Almost all mainstream efforts to end abortion today are built on the assumption that ordinary people will play no real role beyond that of praying, voting, and donating money. The idea that ordinary people will ever lay down their lives and take up their crosses in any serious way is basically anathema. And this is a terrible shame, because there's always been enough pro-life people in the United States to both lock down every single abortion clinic permanently and prevent police from arresting the pro-life people who do that. We could end surgical abortion in a matter of weeks if pro-life America was ready to mobilize itself and do what was necessary. So it's not that rescue as a strategy would have no effect, but that rather most pro-life Americans lack the will to execute that strategy. I can't help but believe that the knee-jerk responses so many have had against rescue is motivated, at least in part, from an uncomfortable way it makes us feel when we, and I include myself, aren't rescuing. In his 1992 book, Shattering the Darkness, Pastor Joseph Foreman wrote, "The litmus test for whether or not we have made compromise a principle of our pro-life activities is our reaction to rescue." How is rescue the litmus test? Because the other pro-life weapons, while working to achieve their objective, must meanwhile permit the choice to kill. Rescue is the one activity which, while it's being carried out, does not permit choice. You need to see that it is the political activist, the educator, the crisis pregnancy center administrator, and the preacher who must justify how they can engage in activities which, today, leave a woman free to kill if she so chooses. Again, he's not saying those things are wrong, only they allow people to kill right now. Rescue does not call us to lay down our lives. We're not living in a totally tyrannical state yet, although many of us want to pretend that we are, because that would excuse us from our duty of trying to make the world a better place. But rescue, whether it is carried out by millions of people or by just a few, does remind us that the preborn child is a valuable image bearer of God, valuable enough that at least some people sometimes should see fit to dispense with calculating strategies and interpose on their behalf, possibly saving their lives or at least delaying their murders and receiving upon your own bodies part of the violence that was intended for them, just as you would be inclined to do for someone that you truly loved and for whom you were the only person to defend. We hope that whatever happens and however long we languish in prison, you won't be able to forget us or the children that we represent. We don't want you to be comfortable. We don't necessarily want you to imitate us, although America does need more people willing to disobey. First and foremost, we want you to love your neighbor the same way that you would want to be loved.